He didn't come to claim her. He came to give her back to herself. She was shaking in a thin hospital blanket, unsure if she should speak, breathe, or just disappear. And he knelt, this feared man, this name whispered like a warning, and asked, "Do you want to stay here?" The choice is yours. No one had asked her anything in years. When she nodded, the room shifted. A nurse exhaled. A doctor stepped closer. A security guard looked at the floor. Sometimes protection doesn't look like violence. Sometimes it looks like a girl finally being allowed to say no. Stories like this matter. Subscribe and share. He didn't expect the call after 2, but it came. Hospital line. A nurse breathing through courage, one sentence that nailed him to the floor. She asked for you by name. A girl. A fractured wrist, ribs like fingerprints. A stepfather coming with paperwork and friends wearing badges. Rafael Calderon stood in his penthouse dim, jacket on, knuckles raw from business that never stayed clean. The city flickered below. The old scar along his cheek tugged when he clenched his jaw. He touched it, then lifted the phone. "Say it again," he told the nurse. "Ava Sorensen," she whispered. 16. She won't let go of my sleeve. Detective Rolf Sorensen wants her discharged before morning. Rafael rarely raised his voice. Keep her where she is. If anyone tries to move her, press the blue button and say my surname. Can you do that? A small yes. Good. What's your name? Marla? Marla, thank you for calling. Not everyone would. He stared at the window until it gave his shape back. Silver hair tied, dark suit rumpled, a man too old for sleep and too stubborn for surrender. Somewhere below, an ambulance moaned. Somewhere else, a predator checked his watch. Rafael lived by rules. 1. Debt must be paid. 2. Power protects or it poisons. Choose. He owed the girl's father a life. Years ago, he coughed seawater on a dock while gunfire stitched the bay. A laughing dock worker hauled him up, saying, "You breathe on the house, kid." The man was dead. The debt wasn't. He dialed. Branco, 3 sedans. 10 minutes. "Already downstairs," said the bodyguard. Suits and ties. No hardware showing. "Bastion," he called next. "Emergency protection. Chain of custody on every image and scan. Wake a judge." 2 judges, the lawyer said. "Alina." "I'm on call," Dr. Mercer answered. "I can be a visiting cousin in 15. "Bring your camera." "Sister Inez." "Is it the dock girl's name?" the nun asked. "For once," Rafael said, "we'll spend the prayer." He buttoned his jacket, stepped into the elevator. The doors opened to 3 men in black who looked like shadows rehearsing courtesy. "No noise," he said. They repeated it softly, like a liturgy. Hospitals at night try to be quiet. The automatic doors breathed. 3 black commas slid to the curb. Branco went first, then the others. They took positions that watched without blocking, hands empty, eyes open. Rafael entered alone. The girl stood near triage, gown hanging off narrow shoulders, eyes red, hands clasped. He slowed, then knelt until his eyes matched hers. Up close, his cheek scar read like a thin warning. "Eva," he said, and waited. She nodded. "No one touches you without your permission," he told her. "Not him. Not me. Not anyone." Her breath shivered. The nurse, Marla, looked like relief might knock her down. "Where does it hurt?" Dr. Mercer asked, flashing a borrowed badge. "May I photograph your injuries?" "Only if you say yes." Eva looked at Rafael. "It's your body," he said. "You decide." "Yes," she whispered. Bastion arrived immaculate. Judge in chambers in 40, emergency protective filed, Chain of custody forms printed and time-stamped. Security footage copying now. Make copies twice, Raphael said. Sister Inez appeared, cardigan soft, gaze iron. She touched Ava's shoulder with permission and murmured directions. They had filled the lobby with witnesses without closing a door. The city said Raphael stormed places. He preferred to open them. Sir. The guard found his spine. We can't have a scene. You'll have paperwork, Raphael said. The elevator pinged. 2 uniforms stepped out, followed by a man whose smile belonged on a billboard. Detective Rolf Sorensen scanned the room and saw suits, a nun, a doctor, and a man kneeling to his stepdaughter like a father at a pew. Mr. Calderon, Sorensen said, this is a private family matter. Raphael didn't stand yet. Families protect, he said mildly. I'm in the right room. You brought criminals to intimidate hospital staff. She's coming home. Step aside. Dr. Mercer lifted a sleeve 1 inch. The camera clicked. Patterned bruising, not a fall. Sister Inez held a signed refusal to release. Bastian raised a folder that smelled like inevitability. The court will decide, he said. The court knows me, Sorensen replied. Then it will enjoy a reunion, Bastian said. The doors opened again. A camera woman slid in, press badge swinging. Raphael, she said, you asked for light. Layla, he answered. No faces of minors, no names until the hearing. Honor that or leave. I'll honor it. Nurses edged closer. The hospital became a stage. Raphael turned to Ava. Anything of your mother's that keeps you brave? A tag, metal, she said. Sewn inside my backpack lining. A number. I think it opens a locker. He checked my bag yesterday. We'll find it. Branko angled toward the doors. Where? Taylor Street Gym, my old one. Bastian slid him a printed emergency access order. Don't get pulled over. Then don't let anyone pull us, Branko said, and vanished. Sorensen checked his watch. A man in a hurry is a man afraid of morning. Raphael finally stood. Silver hair tied back. Scar like a sentence. 2 men in fluorescent wash. A patriarch who wouldn't apologize. And a decorated detective. Behind Raphael, 3 suits waited like punctuation. Behind Sorensen, uniforms squared. Detective, Raphael said, you may leave now or wait for the judge to explain consequences. Either way, you will not touch the girl. You don't decide that. No, Raphael said. She does. Eva breathed like learning how. I'm staying, she said. With them. Everything shifted. Marla unclenched. The guard lost certainty. The camera's red eye brightened. Some nights end as they begin. Quiet. This one would end with sirens. But the blue and red would be for paperwork, not bodies. For charges, not funerals. Outside, 3 sedans waited. Inside, a girl in a paper gown stood next to a man with a scar who refused to raise his voice. Page the administrator, Raphael said. We'll need a conference room at 9. And after that? Marla asked. He glanced at the detective, then at the girl. After that, he said, we tell the truth about where this started. Tonight. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us keep these stories alive, and trust me, the best part is yet to come. Now, let's get back to it. Bastian Moretti arrived the way storms do. Measured pressure, no wasted motion. He crossed the lobby with a slim briefcase and a face that gave nothing away, nodding once to Raphael before speaking to the nurses' station, like the hospital already belonged to him. Emergency petition is filed, he said, slipping stamped copies beneath the glass. Judge Hua is reviewing. We'll need chain of custody logs on all imaging and photographs starting now. Print, sign, duplicate. Originals ride with me. Marla glanced at Raphael. He inclined his head. Paperwork began to hiss from the printer like steam from a valve. Bastian set a small folding scanner on the counter, fed in forms, and spoke without looking up. Officer Sorensen may attempt a parental discharge. We are contesting under exigent circumstances, citing potential evidence, tampering, and undue influence. Until the judge rules, this child is not to be moved. We usually need the guardian's consent, the clerk said. You have the child's, Bastian replied, and a hospital has a duty to protect a minor who reports harm. The law can be heavy. Tonight it will be a shield. Dr. Alina Mercer had already coaxed Eva to a quiet alcove. She wore the calm that makes frightened people breathe. May I lift the gown? She asked again. I'll keep you covered as much as possible. Eva nodded. Sister Inez stood on the other side, a steady hand at the girl's shoulder, humming something soft and old. The first flash popped, bright, clinical. Mercer angled the portable light, photographing with care. An oval bruise high on the upper arm, linear contusions across the ribs, a faint handprint at the back of the neck that made Sister Inez swallow. These aren't stairs, Mercer murmured, voice for the record as much as for the room. Stairfalls produce irregular bruising on bony prominences, the shins, elbows, forehead, with abrasions from edges. These patterns are clustered, linear, and bilateral. That means repeated pressure, grabbing, compression. Eva's eyes shone, but didn't spill. He says I bruise easy. Everyone bruises under hands, Mercer said gently. Another flash. Tilt a little? Thank you. Sister Inez smoothed the gown back into place. You are not the thing that happened to you, she said. And then her voice snagged when Eva whispered, Sorensen. It was tiny, almost unvoiced, but the nun's jaw set. You know him, Eva said. I know the kind of rounds he took, Inez answered. Checking on runaways. A pause. We keep the logs. Bastian looked up at Raphael. Good. We'll need copies. The elevator chimed. Detective Rolf Sorensen walked out, trailed by 2 uniforms and the hospital administrator. A man with soft hands and a sharper smile. Sorensen's presence bent air. He saw the camera at Lila's hip and arranged his face into civic concern. Mr. Calderon? He lifted the discharge papers like a priest with a sacrament. Thank you for coming. We're all grateful for community support. But my daughter will be safer at home. Bastian stepped between the paper and the nurse's counter. Put that down, he said pleasantly. You're contaminating a chain. Sorensen blinked. A chain? Of custody, Bastian said. I'd hate for the judge to believe you touched hospital records before a ruling. Sorensen laughed a fraction too loud. I love when criminals talk law. I love when sworn officers pretend it doesn't apply to them, Bastian answered. He gestured to the forms on the counter. Cameras, Mr. Administrator. Make sure they're rolling. Raphael moved without hurry. He did not crowd. He simply existed in the precise space where Sorensen's path would be, a fixed point men circled. He raised a palm to his own men. Positions, he said quietly. The suits posted without blocking. Open hands, neutral feet, just enough distance to claim hallway without owning it. Optics of safety. No more, no less. Sorensen's voice turned silk. Eva, sweetheart, he called over Raphael's shoulder. We should go. This is confusing. You're hurt and frightened, and these people are the ones I asked for, Eva said, too soft to travel. Sister Ines repeated it louder. She asked for them. Her judgment is compromised, Sorensen snapped. She's 16. And cognizant, Dr. Mercer replied, already sliding a consent form in front of Eva's trembling hand. She consents to photographs and medical treatment. Would you like me to read the language to you, Detective? My legal Latin is rusty, but I can try. The administrator cleared his throat. Officer Sorensen has legal custody. Hospital policy favors. Hospital policy doesn't outrank a judge, Bastian said, and a judge is reviewing right now. The elevator chimed again. A resident in wrinkled scrubs stepped out, saw Sorensen, and faltered. He would have kept walking if a tiny voice hadn't caught on Bastian's sleeve. Sir? An intern with a fog of hair and eyes too large for the hour stood there, shaking. She shoved a thumb drive into his palm. They told me to delete these, she whispered. I didn't. Bastian closed his hand over the drive. Your name? No name, she said, eyes flicking to the administrator. Please. Then you're the witness, Bastian said, pocketing the drive. Thank you, witness. Step into the light for 1 second. He repositioned her under a camera and said to Layla, Record time and receipt. Layla did, keeping the lens low. No face. Sorensen's smile cooled. Chain of custody theater, he said. Cute. It's called due process, Bastian answered. Most of us respect it. Sorensen shifted tactics. He softened his posture, shoulders rounding, voice dropping to parental roughness. Mr. Calderon, he said, I appreciate your passion. But what you're doing will traumatize her further. She needs familiar walls, her own bed. Raphael finally turned to face him fully, silver hair catching the fluorescence. Familiar walls bruised her, he said. Beds can be cages. You think you can rewrite the law because people are scared of you? I think the law was written for nights like this, Raphael said, and fear has nothing to do with it. The administrator stepped forward with newfound resolve. Officer Sorensen is correct that this cannot become a circus. The hospital is not a battleground for PR. Layla lifted a brow. Then you'll appreciate good lighting. It reduces shadows. Dr. Mercer rejoined them, holding a sealed evidence envelope with gloved hands. Imaging complete. Photographs sealed. Nurse signatures here and here. She pointed. Marla signed, cheeks still pale. Sorensen leaned in, voice low. You're making a mistake, Doctor. The kind that ends careers. Mercer didn't blink. I'd rather lose a career than a child, she said. Something mean curled at Sorensen's mouth. You imagine yourself her savior, he said. You too, counselor. And you, he flicked his gaze at Inez. Do you all believe this man? A nod at Raphael. Cares about anything but leverage? Sister Inez stared at him with such clean pity it stung. He cares about debts, she said. So does God. The uniforms shifted, restless under the cameras. Raphael's men did not move. Bastian's phone buzzed. He skimmed the message, let a rare, private smile crease his mouth. Judge Hua is joining by video in 35, he said. Conference room with glass walls, please. He looked at the administrator. Transparency, literally. The administrator hesitated, glanced at Sorensen, then nodded to a charge nurse. Room B. Perfect, Bastian said. Detective, you are welcome to attend and be recorded. We'll present medical evidence. The court will hear the minor. You can't parade her in front of cameras. The court isn't a camera, Bastian said. It's a witness that bites. Sorensen inhaled through his nose, paper crinkling in his grip. I'll file for contempt, File for breakfast, Bastian said. We'll eat it. The brittle smile broke. Fine, Sorensen said. Let's waste everyone's time. They began to move, Raphael guiding with presence, Bastian shepherding documents, Dr. Mercer carrying the sealed envelope, Inez walking with Ava. The corridor seemed to widen around them. People watched, but no one interfered. They had taken 10 steps when the air changed. A man in a crisp suit with a badge clipped to his belt, a hospital VP, strode from a side door with Dr. Petrov at his shoulder. Petrov's coat was immaculate, his eyes small and tired of pretending. Stop, the VP said, voice hard enough to echo. There will be no hearing. Discharge is final. Prep the patient now. Petrov folded his arms. Protocol has been followed. We won't allow vigilantes to run this floor. Raphael didn't raise his voice. No noise, he told his men. Then to Bastian, almost conversational. What does the law say when people think it's a wall? Bastian opened the briefcase and took out a single page with a red stamp that glowed like a wound. It says we walk through, he replied. The VP smiled without warmth. Try. Behind him, triage staff began pulling forms, the printer chattering faster. A nurse Raphael didn't know wheeled an empty chair toward Ava. Marla whispered, They're prepping discharge now. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe and like this video. It helps more people discover stories like this one. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now, take a deep breath. Because what happens next will change everything. She had forgotten how to breathe without asking permission first. Even now, sitting on the padded bench near the nurse's alcove, wrapped in a hospital gown that barely reached her knees, Eva kept her shoulders tucked in, elbows close, as if her body still remembered the size of the door frames she had learned not to brush against. The fluorescent lights hummed. People's voices blurred in low tones. Raphael stood a little distance away, speaking quietly with the lawyer and the doctor. He didn't look at her constantly, didn't hover, but she could feel that if she called his name, he would turn. He was the first adult in 3 years who didn't pretend not to see her. She used to have a home, a real one, with chipped paint on the windowsills and a father who smelled like salt and engine grease, and once carried her on his shoulders through a crowded street fair. They had eaten fried dough and got powdered sugar everywhere, and her mother laughed like sunlight. Then her father died, and the house became something else. Someplace with furniture and walls, but no air. Her mother remarried too quickly. The man was polite at first. Everyone said he was a hero cop. He knew how to shake hands. He knew how to look at people like he cared. He brought flowers to the funeral. Eva had been 13, still small enough to need protecting, old enough to notice when protection soured into ownership. Rules arrived first. Do not speak unless spoken to. A closed door is an insult. Everything in the house belongs to the house. Then, the accidents. The bruise on her forearm from the kitchen counter she didn't remember bumping into. The cracked lip from falling on the stairs. The sprained wrist when she tripped. Her mother said stress made her clumsy. Then her mother stopped saying anything at all. The night before her mother died, she had held Ava's face in both hands and whispered something so soft, Ava spent months convincing herself she imagined it. Run! But there was nowhere to run to. Sorensen transferred jobs, uprooted them, moved them across districts. No neighbors stayed long enough to notice patterns. No teacher stayed brave long enough to report twice. And when Ava did try to tell someone, once, just once, her mother's face went very still, and Sorensen's hand tightened on her shoulder, and the social worker said, "It sounds like a misunderstanding." The world got small after that. Now the world was too big, too bright, too loud. And yet somehow she could breathe. She touched her backpack drawstring at her feet. The seam was loose, because she had cut it herself weeks ago, hands shaking in the dark, to hide a small metal locker tag. She used to keep it there always. Her mother had slid it into her palm once, quick, secretive, the metal warm from her skin. Keep this, if something happens. Keep it. Locker 17. Taylor Street Gym. A place she hadn't been allowed to return to. She reached into the backpack now, fingers searching. The lining gave way under her touch, but the tag was gone. She stared at the hollow space. He took it. Somehow he had known. Her throat closed, not with tears, but with the quiet terror of being hunted by someone who smiled while he carved. Sister Inez settled beside her, folding her cardigan-wrapped hands in her lap. "You're very brave," she said. Ava didn't look up. "No, I'm just tired." "That's what bravery is most days." Ava glanced at her. "You knew him." The nun's eyes softened with grief, not surprise. "He came to the shelter where I worked, sometimes to check records, sometimes to check girls." Eva felt something cold slide through her. "And you didn't do anything?" Inez flinched, just a tremor. Small, but there. "I reported what I could. Not enough people listened. Not enough wanted to. I am sorry. I should have been louder." Ava looked away. Adults always say that. The nun didn't defend herself. She let the silence sit. Raphael returned then. He did not crouch this time. He simply stopped in front of her and waited until she looked at him. He held his phone in one hand, consent forms in the other. "They will likely ask again for photographs," he said. "Your voice matters, but evidence is the spine of protection." "So I am asking. Not telling. Do you want to continue? You choose. Everything tonight is your choice." Her chest hurt, not from the bruises, something deeper, stranger, like an old locked door opening a crack. "I choose yes," she said. Her voice shook, but she said it. Raphael nodded once, slow, like she had done something precious. The doctor returned. The camera clicked again. It didn't feel like being inspected this time. It felt like telling the truth. When they finished, Raphael stepped aside, giving her space. Not distance. Space. She didn't know the difference until now. Branko returned from somewhere outside and placed a paper cup in front of her. The cocoa inside was watery, lukewarm. Too sweet. Terrible. It was the best thing she had tasted in a year. She laughed. Barely, a small sound like a bird landing. But she laughed. Branko smiled back, shy, as though he didn't want to scare the moment away. Her hands didn't shake anymore. Raphael's phone buzzed. He glanced down. The screen glowed. Layla Chen. "I have sources on Sorensen. Ready to go live if you can protect me." Raphael's expression didn't change. But the air did, like the moment before a storm chooses where to break. Ava's cocoa suddenly tasted like lightning. Dr. Alina Mercer had worked in hospitals long enough to recognize when a door had been closed just a little too quickly. She caught it in the corner of her eye, the flick of Dr. Petrov's white coat disappearing into imaging room 3, the folder tucked against his ribs like contraband, the radiology tech trailing behind him, looking pale and unsure. Alina followed. She didn't hurry. She didn't need to. The guilt was making enough noise for all of them. Petrov was standing by the computer when she walked in, clicking through screens with the tight jaw of someone rewriting reality. "Where are the films?" she asked, voice mild. "Under review," he replied without turning. "Standard protocol in cases involving potential family disputes." "Protocol," Alina echoed, stepping closer. "Is that what we're calling falsifying chain of custody records now?" Petrov finally turned, smile thin as a scalpel. "You're overstepping, Dr. Mercer. And you're obstructing evidence in a suspected abuse case." Alina let her hands slide into her coat pockets. Not defensive, simply steady. "If those scans are altered, removed, or relabeled, you will not survive the board review that follows. I'll personally ensure it." Petrov didn't flinch. That was the worst part. He was confident. "The girl fell down the stairs," he said. "No," Alina corrected. "Someone threw her." "The bruising patterns are angled and layered. Stairfalls don't do that." "Your interpretation," he countered. "My medical expertise," she returned. Silence stretched sharp between them. The radiology tech swallowed hard. Alina shifted her gaze to him instead. "Leave the files as they are," she said softly. He nodded. Small, but it was something. Petrov didn't stop him. He didn't have to, because Petrov had already made another move. The films were backed up, yes, but the originals were flagged for re-evaluation by a senior attending. He could stall, misdirect, bury. This was going to be a war of paperwork and timing, the kind that could kill quietly. Alina exited the room and found Raphael waiting in the hallway, presence strong and still. He raised a brow. "Well, he hasn't destroyed anything yet," she said, "but he plans to." Raphael nodded once. "Then we won't give him time." Lila Chen arrived 10 minutes later. Messy bun, dark coat, camera bag slung crossbody, eyes sharp as broken glass. She moved like someone who had been chased before. Raphael intercepted her before she could enter the pediatric wing. "No faces of minors," he said. "No names spoken until the court hearing. You report context, not identity. Understood?" Layla didn't blink. "Understood. I'm not here to exploit her. I'm here because someone has been burying abuse complaints tied to Sorensen for at least 5 years. "Sources?" Bastian asked. 3 nurses, a teacher, and 1 ex-cop who won't go on record yet." She looked toward the hallway where Eva sat with Sister Inez. Her voice softened a fraction. "I won't drag her into the spotlight. Not until she chooses to walk into it herself." Raphael nodded. "Then you can stay." Layla exhaled. Relief, not victory. She took out her phone and typed 1 message. "Holding position. Story forming. Will request legal clearance in 30. The reply flashed almost instantly. "Newsroom. If this blows up, admin will try to discharge her fast. Stay close." Downstairs, Alina passed a cluster of nurses huddled near the break room. Their voices were quiet, but the emotion wasn't. They're really going to send her home with him? They can't. Administration already flagged her chart. Expedited discharge pending. You know what that means. "It means Petrov signed off," another said bitterly. "If they force that girl out of this building—" "We walk," the head nurse said, final, jaw set. "All of us." Alina paused. She didn't join the group. She didn't need to. The nurses were already preparing for war. And if a hospital lost its nursing staff, everything stopped. In the conference alcove, Bastian Moretti sat with his laptop open, tie loosened, fingers moving fast. His voice was a low stream of curse words in 3 languages. "Found it," he said, pulling up bank transfers. "Hospital charity fund, same one Petrov chairs, Transfers to a wellness research nonprofit in the Center District. That sounds legitimate, Raphael said. It would be, Bastian replied, if the nonprofit wasn't a shell that dissolved 2 years ago. The last 3 transfers, each flagged as community outreach grants, landed in a private account under the name A. Petrov. Total, $126,400. Alina let out a slow breath. Blood money. No, Bastian corrected. Silence money. Raphael's expression did not change, but something colder settled behind his eyes. We don't use this yet, he said. We use it when it hurts most to deny. Bastian nodded. The elevator dinged. Detective Rolf Sorensen stepped out like he owned the building. Pressed uniform, polished shoes, smile that played well on local news broadcasts. 2 officers flanked him, human shields disguised as colleagues. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "Where is my daughter?" he asked at the front desk. The desk nurse's jaw tightened, but her hands didn't shake. Raphael stepped into view, not blocking, just there. "She's receiving treatment," Raphael said calmly. "You'll wait." Sorensen smiled, a precise, controlled expression designed to charm juries. "This is a hospital, Mr. Calderon. They are legally required to release a minor to her custodial guardian, which is me." "Not tonight," Raphael said. "Are you threatening me?" Sorensen asked, voice a velvet blade. "No," Raphael replied. "I follow the law. I expect you to do the same." Sorensen leaned in, voice soft. "You think you're saving her. But you're just delaying her return to structure. She needs discipline. She needs family." Raphael's tone did not change. "She needs safety, which you can't provide." Sorensen's eyes flicked over the suited men behind Raphael. "This is intimidation." "This is presence," Raphael answered. "Intimidation would look different." The officers behind Sorensen shifted, uncertain. For a moment, silence held the building like held breath. Then Sorensen turned to the nearest hospital camera and smiled. "Gangsters are exploiting a family tragedy for attention," he told the lens. "I trust the hospital to do the right thing." He was playing to the public, preemptively framing Raphael as the villain, which meant he was scared. Raphael saw it. And so did Layla, recording, not airing yet, just watching. Sorensen walked to the administration wing. Alina followed with her eyes. "Don't," Raphael said quietly. "Not yet." Minutes later, the overhead speaker chimed. "Triage, prepare patient discharge for Eva Sorensen. Authorization, Dr. Petrov." Time, 6 a.m. Eva had 8 hours. 8 hours before the world tried to put her back in the dark. Raphael didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. One glance at the clock, 5:12 a.m., was enough for everyone in that hallway to understand the air had shifted. The hospital's fluorescent lights washed everyone flat, but Raphael's posture made him the only thing that held shape. 6 a.m. discharge, Bastian said quietly beside him. "We don't have until morning." "We have now." Raphael nodded once. No flare of anger. No wasted breath. "Branko," he called. Branko stepped forward immediately, broad-shouldered, scar across his chin, eyes steady in a way that could calm or terrify, depending on the target. "You remember the gym on Taylor Street?" Raphael said. Branko blinked once, understanding. "Locker 17, he replied. Eva looked up from her chair, exhaustion clinging to her like a second gown. She didn't speak, but she didn't need to. Her hand tightened subtly on the paper cup of cocoa. Raphael crouched to her level again. "We will only retrieve what your mother wanted kept safe." Nothing more. He waited. Do we have your permission? Eva swallowed, nodded. Yes. Consent, always asked, always hers. Raphael stood. Take Matteo with you, he told Branco, nodding to the youngest attorney on staff, a sharp-eyed 25-year-old whose suit still had tailoring pins tucked in the seams. You'll need an emergency retrieval order and a chain of custody affidavit for whatever you find. Layla raised her camera slightly. I'll document, not broadcast. Raphael looked at her. Not suspicion. Calculation. You film the retrieval, he said. Not faces. Not names. Only the process. I understand, she said. He believed her. Just enough. Branco and Matteo moved. Not hurried. Efficient. By the time they hit the parking garage, the sky outside the hospital's tinted glass was just starting to bruise with dawn. The gym on Taylor Street was the kind of place that smelled like chalk dust and old sweat, with posters that had once been motivational, but now just looked tired. The night manager blinked at the sight of 2 men in suits and a woman with a camera, but the moment Matteo held up the stamped order, his confusion snapped into uneasy compliance. This way, he muttered. Locker 17 was dented, a streak of rust along the bottom. The key was long gone, so Branco didn't bother with subtlety. 1 elbow, 1 solid crack. The locker door swung open. Inside, a small spiral notebook with a grocery store cover. 3 folded bank deposit slips. A USB drive taped to the back wall. A phone, dead, old but intact. And a Polaroid picture of Eva at 8 years old, arms wrapped around her mother. Layla filmed, but didn't narrate, just time-stamped, steady, methodical. Matteo logged each item aloud. Recovered intact. No external alteration. Chain of custody transferred for legal review. Timestamp, 5:41 a.m. Branco didn't react to the contents. He simply closed the evidence bag with the same care he'd use if it held explosives. On their way out, Layla's phone buzzed. Newsroom. City desk wants early copy. Confirm we're publishing? She didn't reply. Not yet. Back at the hospital, things had escalated. The nurses' union rep, a compact woman with a steel spine posture, stood at the reception desk, arms crossed. Any attempt to discharge that child against medical assessment, we walk, she told the hospital VP, who looked like he had aged several years in the past hour. No discharges. No transfers. Not tonight. You can't threaten a labor action in a critical care facility, the VP stammered. We can, she said, and we will. Behind her, nurses stood. Not loud, not chanting, just present. A wall of quiet, immovable resolve. Raphael didn't interfere. He didn't even look. Power didn't always need to be used. Sometimes it only needed to be witnessed. The elevator chimed. Sorensen walked out like he owned gravity. 2 uniformed officers at his sides. His badge gleamed. His smile did not reach his eyes. Step aside, he said. No one moved. He stepped closer to Raphael, as if to speak to an equal or an enemy. Your time is up. The hospital has approved discharge. I am taking my daughter home. Raphael didn't step forward. He simply placed one hand, just one, on Eva's shoulder. He leaned, level, soft voice meant for her ear, not his. You are not alone. The girl's breath hitched, but she didn't retreat. Sorensen moved to take her arm. And there, exactly like the still image frozen forever in the memory of the building's security cameras, Raphael shifted his body. Not blocking the officer, not aggressive, simply present, an unmovable line drawn across the floor. She will speak for herself, Raphael said. The court will hear her. There was no threat, which made it more powerful than one. Sorensen laughed. Sharp, brittle, desperate. A criminal lecturing me about legal process? Bastian stepped forward and handed him the emergency petition for protective custody. Sorensen scanned the first line. His smile died. This hearing is set for 9 a.m., Bastian said. A judge will determine custody. Until then, she remains under medical supervision. Sorensen's voice lowered to a growl. This is interference. This, Raphael said, is accountability. The officers behind Sorensen shifted uncomfortably. He saw it. He hated it. He reached for Eva anyway. Layla pressed play. On her phone, from the USB drive recovered minutes earlier, a man's voice. Rolf Sorensen's voice. Tight, low, furious. She thinks she's ruining everything. You understand? If she keeps digging. Tomorrow. I'll make it look like an accident. Like the last one. The hallway froze. You could feel the sound of it. Every breath held, every muscle stilled. Raphael didn't look triumphant. He looked tired, old, and absolutely resolved. Bastian tapped his phone. The judge has been notified. She'll hear this immediately. A message came in seconds later. Judge Herrera. Emergency hearing moved up. 9 a.m. today. Do not let her leave the building. Sorensen's face cracked. Not broken yet, but the first fracture had formed. And fractures spread. Fast. The conference room on the 4th floor was never meant to hold this much gravity. It was usually where administrators discussed budgets, or where pharmaceutical reps set out catered sandwiches. Now the long glass walls made the space feel like a stage, every movement visible to nurses, journalists, and silent onlookers gathering outside like an audience waiting for a verdict. A laptop sat at the center of the table, its camera already connected to a judge 50 miles away, framed by law books and early morning sunlight. Bastian adjusted his tie, though it didn't need adjusting. He didn't pace. He didn't tap his pen. He just breathed once, long and slow, steadying himself the way fighters did before stepping into a ring. Raphael stood near the back wall, quiet, watchful. He hadn't slept, but exhaustion only carved him deeper, sharper, like weather polishing stone. Eva sat between Sister Inez and Dr. Mercer. Her wrist cast rested in her lap. She had not spoken yet. Her eyes stayed on the table, but she had not moved closer to the door. That alone was a victory. Sorensen arrived last. His uniform was immaculate, shoes polished to mirror-black shine, medals gleaming. He was everything a city loved to praise. A decorated officer, a community volunteer, a grieving widower trying to do the right thing. He took his seat across from Eva, positioning his body so she would have to see him if she looked up. She didn't. The judge's voice projected through the speaker. This emergency hearing is to determine temporary protective custody for the minor, Eva Sorensen. All statements are recorded. Behavioral conduct is under review. We will begin with sworn testimony. Bastian rose first. He did not start with emotion. He started with order. Your Honor, we will establish 3 points: injury, pattern, and risk. He placed the first set of photographs on the table, angled toward the laptop camera. Bruises mapped in the patterned shapes of fingers, ribs showing pressure points inconsistent with a fall. The fracture line on the wrist too clean and direct to be accidental. Dr. Mercer narrated clinically, her voice firm but not theatrical. Bruising at staggered depth layers indicates repeated impact. A stairfall produces scatter bruising, not vertical compression. This was inflicted by hand. Sorensen did not flinch. He waited to speak until the judge asked him directly. His voice came warm, controlled. Eva has always been clumsy. Her mother struggled with instability. The girl developed attention-seeking behaviors. I have done everything to support her. This is painful for me. He pressed his hand briefly to his chest, like a man wounded. The judge listened with no expression. Bastian continued. Your Honor, we have documentation of hospital visits made by the mother in the years preceding her death. Injuries unexplained. Medical records filed under different clinics due to frequent address changes. I'd like to introduce evidence. Sister Ines rose. She held a thin folder, old, worn, the edges soft from being handled too many times. These are shelter intake logs from a youth center. I kept duplicates. The originals were ordered destroyed after a police review. Her gaze flicked briefly toward Sorensen. I recognized his signature on the removal request. The judge leaned forward slightly. Enter into record, she said. The shoulders of the officers behind Sorensen stiffened, just a fraction. Now Bastian laid down the financial documents, the pipeline traced cleanly. Hospital Charity Fund, Shell Nonprofit, Petrov's private account. The judge's face changed. Not much, but enough to signal something turning under the surface. Petrov spoke up then. Too fast. Too defensive. All transfers are documented. My compensation reflects my senior role. Any suggestion otherwise is defamatory. No one suggested anything, Bastian replied calmly. Your reaction is noted for the record. Sorensen's jaw tightened. He leaned forward. I have served this city for 15 years. I have commendations, letters of community support. I coach youth football. I have character witnesses willing to testify that I am a loving and dedicated father. Character is not custody, Bastian said. Silence bloomed. The judge nodded. Bring in the minor. Eva lifted her head. Sister Ines squeezed her hand once. Not guiding, just steadying. Eva stood. She didn't look at Sorensen. She looked at the laptop. At the judge who could decide her life. Her voice shook when she began. He always called it discipline. He said the house needed order, that Mom didn't know how to run one. Sorensen shifted, too quick, too visible. Eva continued. When she tried to leave, he told her no one would believe her. That he was the one who protected the neighborhood, that she owed him loyalty for that. Her throat tightened, but her voice did not break. He said I belonged to his house. Not to myself. The room didn't breathe. Raphael closed his eyes, not in pain, but in recognition. The judge said softly, Thank you, Eva. You may sit. Sorensen leaned forward, voice rising a half step, cracking the polished veneer. She is being manipulated. These are rehearsed accusations. This crime boss is using her to... Bastian didn't raise his voice. He simply pressed a key on his laptop. The voice memo played. Sorensen's voice filled the glass room. She's ruining everything. If she keeps digging, tomorrow, I'll make it look like an accident, like the last one, the scrape of metal, tools, footsteps, then silence. Everything inside Sorensen snapped at once. He lunged across the table, chair screeching, medals swinging, badge glinting in the fluorescent light. The bailiff moved faster than anyone in the room realized he could. Sorensen hit the floor, restrained, fury spilling raw and unmasked. Eva didn't flinch. The judge's voice cut sharp through the room, no longer quiet. Detective Rolf Sorensen, you are hereby suspended pending criminal investigation and removed from custodial authority, effective immediately. The room exhaled. slowly, like lungs learning oxygen for the first time. Eva sat back down. Raphael's hands remained at his sides. He had never once moved. But every person in that room understood. This was the moment the war turned. The judge did not speak immediately after the outburst. Her silence held the room in place, a gravity that no one dared challenge. Sorensen was still on the floor, a knee pressed between his shoulder blades, his badge tilted sideways where it had struck the table. When she did speak, her voice was not loud, but it was final. Detective Rolf Sorensen, you are suspended from duty and placed under immediate detainment pending felony investigation. Custodial rights are revoked. Any further attempt to contact the minor, directly or indirectly, will result in additional charges. The bailiff hauled him upright. His eyes were no longer polished, no longer composed. They were the eyes of a man who knew something precious had slipped out of his grip forever. He didn't look at Eva. He looked at Raphael. Raphael didn't move, didn't blink, didn't return the fury burning inside Sorensen. He simply watched him leave, as if acknowledging a storm that had finally blown itself out. The judge clicked her pen. On the screen, the document appeared with her signature, a swift, looping mark that would ripple through departments and case logs and whispers across the city. "Emergency protective order granted," she said, "effective immediately." The nurses and staff watching from the hallway didn't cheer. They exhaled, like lungs refilling after nearly drowning. The hospital VP, who had watched the entire exchange from the door, wiped his forehead with a trembling hand. His gaze darted to Dr. Petrov. "This facility does not tolerate evidence tampering," he whispered, almost to himself. "Effective immediately, Dr. Petrov. Your privileges are revoked." Petrov stared, not shocked, but hollow, like a man who had bet on the wrong side and finally understood the cost. Security escorted him out the opposite direction from Sorensen. No cameras, no shouting, just a quiet erasure. Layla's phone buzzed wildly, notifications pouring in faster than she could swipe them away. Her live feed, filmed discreetly through the glass, had gone citywide in under 3 minutes. #Guardian and #Mafia trended side by side, colliding in every comment feed. Some viewers were outraged, some were reverent, some were just stunned, but no one was indifferent. Bastian moved through the aftermath like a conductor, directing staff, transferring files, speaking to the district attorney's office with clipped, precise language. "Chain of custody verified. Audio sealed. Medical imaging secured. Yes, Your Honor. No further statement at this time." Sister Inez was already dialing the convent. Soft-spoken logistics, rooms to prepare, linens to gather, a quiet wing with no public access and no last names on the door registry. Eva sat perfectly still. Not frozen. Just absorbing. She looked so young in that chair, not fragile, just real. Like a person finally stepping out of someone else's shadow and realizing how long the dark had been. Raphael moved to her slowly. He didn't kneel as if she were small. He lowered himself so they were eye level, so she could look away if she needed to, so she could choose. His voice was a low, steady warmth. "You leave when you wish." No pressure, no expectation, not protection that demanded gratitude. Protection that belonged to her. Eva's fingers curled around the edge of the seat. The cast on her wrist made the motion awkward, but she didn't hide it. "I want to leave now," she whispered. The words were not loud, but they were the strongest things spoken all day. Raphael nodded once. "Then we go." Branko moved first, clearing a path. The nurses' union representative positioned herself quietly by the elevator, protective, watchful. Sister Inez gathered the backpack with the evidence bag nestled inside. Dr. Mercer checked Eva's vitals one last time, not because she had to, because it meant something to do it gently. They walked. No one clapped. No one cried. The silence was reverent. Halfway down the main hallway, headlights flashed across the glass entrance. A squad car screeched to a stop. The door slammed. Sorensen's union lawyer stormed in, hair wind-blown, coat askew, righteous fury in every step. "You have no legal authority to—" A man stepped out of the back of the squad car. Not a cop, a district attorney's investigator. He held up a single sheet of paper. "Temporary injunction request denied," he said. "Not today." The lawyer froze, mid-breath. The DA investigator looked to Raphael, not deferential, not intimidated, simply acknowledging. "We'll be in touch," he said. Raphael dipped his head once. "We will cooperate fully." The lawyer sputtered, trying to form an argument, but there was no oxygen left for him to breathe in. He had walked into the room thinking he was the storm. He had just learned there were oceans deeper than his reign. Raphael continued walking. Eva matched his steps. The automatic doors opened, not dramatically, not theatrical, just doors opening for a girl who had finally been allowed to choose which direction to walk. Outside, the morning was soft gray. Cool air. Quiet street. No crowd now. The journalists had stepped back. Respect, not fear, governed the space. The black sedan door was opened, but Raphael did not guide her into it. He just waited. Eva climbed in on her own. As the door closed, Raphael glanced once at the building behind them. Not to mark it as conquered, to mark it as survived. The engine hummed, the car pulled away, but the chapter did not end in victory. Not clean, not simple. Because the city does not forget a man who lost control. Sorensen would not sleep quietly. Power does not break. It waits. Somewhere inside that hospital hallway, his badge lay on the floor where it had fallen. And some men do not know how to live without the weight of one. They walked back into the hospital not as fugitives or fighters, but like participants in a ritual everyone in that building already understood. The corridor was waiting. Nurses lined both sides, not rigid, not formal, but standing the way people stand when they want to be counted without needing to speak. Their scrubs were wrinkled. Their faces were tired. But their eyes were steady. Some nodded at Eva as she passed. One placed a warm hand briefly over her own, just 2 fingers against her wrist. No words, no pity, just recognition. Sister Inez walked beside her. Dr. Mercer just behind. Branco and the other suits stepped aside, not blocking, not surrounding, making space. Ahead of them, Raphael stood still, holding something folded over his arm. A coat. Black, soft wool, understated. No symbols on the outside. But when he unfolded it, the inner lining caught the light. A single stitched word near the heart. Home. It was not a command. It was not an adoption. It was a promise. He didn't put it on her. He held it out and waited. Eva inhaled. Her breathing felt different now. Deeper, not trapped in her throat. She put her arms through the sleeves. It was warm. Heavier than it looked. The weight felt like something settling back into place, not onto her. The last door before the lobby slid open. Cameras waited there. Phones, whispering. The television crews repositioned the moment they saw her. The air shifted from quiet to charged, but no one pushed forward. They were waiting to see what she would do. Raphael started to move ahead, to shield her from the flashing lights. but Eva touched his sleeve. "I want to walk," she whispered. He stepped back. She took one step forward, coat settling around her shoulders like it had always belonged there. "My name is Eva Sorensen," she said, voice steady, even though her pulse quivered at her throat. "I am safe." It was not shouted, but the words broke the space open. The applause came not like a roar, but like a wave. Warm, startling, unpracticed. No cheers, no chants, just people clapping because silence had been hurting them too. A nurse wiped her eyes. One of the security guards nodded sharply and turned away so no one would see. Eva didn't smile. She just breathed. And the breath didn't shake. The cameras followed but did not chase as they crossed into the morning air. The sky had begun to soften, that pale, tired pink that only arrives after a night that was fought for. 3 black sedans were waiting, but they didn't peel away fast, tires squealing like criminals fleeing a scene. They moved slowly, an escort, a procession. No one chased, no one stopped them. Layla walked backward, filming as she spoke softly into her mic. The words meant not to sensationalize, but to capture the shift in the city's bones. Power does not always wound. Sometimes power stands between harm and the helpless. Rafael Calderon is feared for what he has done. Today, he is known for what he chose to protect. Eva heard the sentence even through the closed car door. The interior was quiet. Rafael sat beside her. Not too close, just present. The city passed outside the windows. Storefronts, buses, a dog walker pulling his coat tighter against the cold. Life continuing, unaware of how close it had come to swallowing her whole. Eva stared down at her hands. "Is it over?" she asked. Rafael didn't answer right away. He didn't soften it. He didn't coat it in comfort or false hope. "No," he said, voice low. "Justice is slow. And men like him do not accept defeat easily." Her fingers tightened around the coat's lining. "So I'm still not safe." "You are safe tonight," Rafael said. "Tonight is where safety begins. Tomorrow we fight again. But you won't fight alone. Not ever again." The words didn't feel like a promise. They felt like truth. She rested her casted wrist in her lap and let her head lean. Not onto him, but near him. Close enough for support. Not dependency. Outside, the city widened, buildings giving way to quieter streets. Layla's voice continued faintly from the car behind them, narrating the morning news cycle as it collided with reality. 2 officers have come forward with statements linking Detective Sorensen to an evidence auction ring. Items seized from cases never logged into records. A city councilman has been named. Arrest warrants are being prepared. Eva closed her eyes. Sorensen was not done. But neither were they. Rafael rested one arm along the back of the seat. Not around her, just there. Like a wall. A steady presence. Something solid in a world that had shifted too many times beneath her. The sedan turned towards the interstate, the sun lifting itself just high enough to spill gold across the road. Safety was not a door someone opened for her. It was a road. And she was finally traveling it by choice. The safehouse kitchen smelled like warm bread and citrus soap, sunlight filtering through thin curtains that didn't quite cover the windows. Someone, likely Branco, had attempted pancakes. They were uneven and lopsided, but Eva ate them anyway. Not hurried. Not afraid someone would take the plate away. Sister Inez sat across from her, glasses low on her nose, organizing a modest stack of brochures and forms. "Therapy is not a punishment," she said gently. It's where you learn to speak in your own voice, even when someone once told you not to. Eva nodded. She still didn't talk much, but silence no longer came from fear. It came from choice. And, Sister Inez continued, your school transfer is being expedited. No uniforms for a while, no attendance records that make it easy to track you. You'll start with one class at a time. Eva breathed out, a real breath, not the shallow survival ones. Dr. Mercer arrived shortly after, coat still unbuttoned, her hair pulled into a hasty knot. Follow-up scheduled, she said. We'll replace the cast in a week. The ribs will heal, but slowly. No stairs, no heavy lifting, and no apologizing for asking for help. That last line was directed at Eva so directly that even Sister Inez smiled. Raphael sat at the end of the table, coffee cooling in his hands. He hadn't slept. Again. But nothing about him looked weary, only quieter than he had been. The house was stable, safe. But Raphael was not built to rest in quiet rooms. He waited until Eva finished eating, until the conversations settled into soft murmurs, then stood and stepped outside. No one followed. He drove without escort for the first time in weeks. Down to the docks, the place where the morning smelled of rust and seaweed and the ghosts of engines long gone. The pier had rotted in places, boards warped from storm water and salt. He stood at the same patch of railing where a younger version of him had once stumbled. Bleeding, half-conscious, hunted. Another man had pulled him up. An honest dock worker with strong arms and tired eyes. No questions asked. No payment accepted. Just a hand extended because someone was drowning. That man had been Eva's father. Raphael held a single white chrysanthemum in his hand. Clean, simple, unadorned. No theatrics. Flowers weren't symbols, they were acknowledgments. He dropped it into the water. It landed softly, floating without protest, carried by the tide in the direction of open sea. Debts weren't paid with violence. They were paid with presence and protection. The tide accepted the offering. Raphael bowed his head once, then turned back toward the car. Across the city, Layla's article went live. Not a headline screaming scandal. A story told plainly, the cop the city trusted, and the girl no one heard. Names, dates, audit trails, audio transcripts, testimonies from nurses and teachers who had stayed quiet too long. By afternoon, a task force was formed. By evening, Petrov had agreed to testify, faster than anyone expected. Self-preservation moved quicker than guilt. The councilman resigned before charges were filed. His official statement a scramble of excuses and vague denials. The city didn't cheer. It blinked awake. Eva sat at the safe house's small desk, her mother's journal open in front of her. The handwriting was slanted and looping, some pages smudged where teardrops had dried into the paper. The last entry read, "If I cannot get free, let her remember I tried. Let her know she is her own." Eva turned the page gently. She could have taken her mother's maiden name, could have chosen something new, could have rewritten everything that had come before. Instead, she closed the journal and whispered, "I keep Sorensen. But it's mine now, not his." The name did not feel like a shackle anymore. It felt like a story she was choosing to continue, not escape. That evening, Raphael gathered his inner circle at the safe house dining table. Branko, Matteo, Bastian, Sister Inez. Lila was there too, silent but present. Raphael placed a slip of paper in the center. The old rules of the Calderon Syndicate were known. Old-world codes whispered in bars and back rooms. He added a new one. Rule 3. If you can hold the door open, do. Not a law. A direction, not about power, about choice. Everyone at the table nodded, even the ones who didn't smile. The next morning arrived with the thick quiet of court day. Eva stood in front of the hallway mirror, coat on, cast adjusted, hair brushed but unstyled. She didn't look like someone being taken anywhere. She looked like someone going. Raphael approached, stopping so they were once again eye level, just like the first night in the hospital. No pressure in his stance, no instruction in his gaze. "Ready?" he asked. Eva didn't nod right away. She breathed, and then, "Yes." He stood. They walked toward the door together. No noise, just movement. Just forward. Downstairs, Layla's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Sorensen wasn't the only one shopping evidence. Ask about storage yard 14. She looked up. Her heartbeat quickened. The story wasn't over. Not for the city. Not for Raphael. Not for Eva. The chrysanthemum floated somewhere out at sea, but the tide was still moving. If this story has your attention, hit that subscribe button and let us know where in the world you're watching from. Every story we tell connects the past to the present, and we'd love to have you with us for the next one.